Two European powers drew a line on a map in 1494, splitting the Americas like a pie, and it changed the world forever, without asking the people who lived there. How did a single line decide who owned half the globe? Why did Spain and Portugal think they could carve up the New World? Stick around, because this story of ambition, deals, and a massive land grab is wilder than you think. It's 1494, just 2 years after Christopher Columbus landed in the Caribbean, sparking a frenzy over new lands. Spain and Portugal, the most prominent players in exploration, are ready to fight over who gets what. This video is all about the Treaty of Tordesillas, how it came to be, what it did, and how it shaped the Americas we know today. We're diving into a moment when a pope's pen redrew the world and set the stage for centuries of empires. The big challenge is this: Columbus's discovery has thrown Europe into chaos. Spain claims its new lands, but Portugal says they're stepping on their toes. Both want to control the New World and its riches. But how do you divide an unknown world without starting a war? And what does it mean for the millions of people already living there? Let's break it down and see how this treaty changed everything. When Columbus sailed back to Spain in 1493, he brought news of islands, gold, and people in what he thought was Asia. Spain's King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella were thrilled. They saw a chance to beat Portugal in the race for global trade. Portugal, meanwhile, was already exploring Africa's coast, aiming for Asia by sea. They had a head start thanks to the 1479 Treaty of Alcazovas, which gave them rights to land south of the Canary Islands. But Columbus's voyage messed things up. His new lands might fall in Portugal's zone, and nobody's happy. The problem starts right after Columbus's first voyage. He stops in Portugal on his way back, meeting King John II. Columbus brags about his finds: San Salvador, Cuba, Hispaniola, and John's not pleased. He thinks these lands might belong to Portugal under the old treaty. Spain disagrees, claiming Columbus sailed west, not south, so it's their turf. Both countries are ready to argue, maybe even fight, over who gets to claim the New World. Tensions are high, and Europe's watching to see who blinks first. Enter the Pope. Alexander VI, a Spaniard named Rodrigo Borgia. In 1493, Spain asked him to settle the dispute, knowing he was likely to favor them. The Pope issues several bulls, official decrees, starting with Inter Caetera in May 1493. He draws an imaginary line in the Atlantic, 100 leagues, about 300 miles, west of the Cape Verde Islands, saying Spain gets everything west of it, Portugal everything east. It's a bold move. Basically, the Pope claims he can divide the world between two Catholic powers, ignoring everyone else, including the native peoples of the Americas. Portugal's not happy with the Pope's line. It's too close to Africa, cutting them off from their route around the continent. King John II pushes back, demanding a better deal. Spain, fresh off their conquest of Granada and riding high from Columbus's news, doesn't want a war, but also doesn't want to lose their new lands. Both sides agree to negotiate directly, bypassing the Pope's line for something they can both live with. The stage is set for a historic deal. In June 1494, Spanish and Portuguese diplomats met in the small Spanish town of Tordesillas. It's a tense summit. Both sides know the stakes are enormous. Spain has Columbus's discoveries, but Portugal has experience, with explorers like Bartolomeo Diaz already rounding Africa's Cape of Good Hope. The talks drag on, with maps, charts, and arguments flying. Finally, they agree on a new line: 370 leagues, about 1,100 miles, west of the Cape Verde Islands. Everything west goes to Spain, everything east to Portugal. The Treaty of Tordesillas was signed on June 7, 1494, and ratified by both countries soon after. Let's break down what this treaty meant. The line, called the demarcation, ran pole to pole through the Atlantic. Spain gained control of most of the Americas, including the Caribbean, Mexico, and South America. Portugal acquired a slice of what's now Brazil, along with their African and Asian roots. The line was vague. No one knew exactly where it fell in the New World, since maps were rough and the Americas' size was unclear. But it gave both powers a claim to explore and conquer without stepping on each other's toes. The treaty wasn't just about lines, it was about ambition. Spain used it to justify sending more explorers, like Hernán Cortés and Francisco Pizarro, who conquered the Aztec and Inca empires. Columbus himself continued to explore under Spain's claim, reaching South America and Central America. Portugal, meanwhile, sent Pedro Álvares Cabral, who discovered Brazil in 1500, conveniently east of the line. The treaty gave both countries a green light to colonize, trade, and spread Christianity, all backed by the Pope's blessing. But what about the people already living in the Americas? The treaty ignored them completely. The Taíno in the Caribbean, the Aztec in Mexico, the Inca in Peru, millions of people with their own cultures, cities, and lives had no say. Columbus's voyages had already brought smallpox and slavery to the Taíno, and the treaty paved the way for more. By 1600, disease and conquest wiped out up to 90% of native populations in some areas. The treaty didn't cause this directly, but it set the rules for a land grab that devastated native societies. The treaty also played a role in shaping the Columbian Exchange, the massive exchange of goods, people, and ideas initiated by Columbus. Spain's control of the Americas brought corn, potatoes, and silver to Europe, transforming diets and economies. Portugal's Brazilian colonies added sugar and coffee, fueling the slave trade to work on plantations. Enslaved Africans, brought to both Spanish and Portuguese colonies, shaped the Americas' culture, music, food, religion, while enduring brutal conditions. The treaty's division ensured Spain and Portugal dominated this exchange, linking the Americas to Europe and Africa. The climax of this story is the signing of the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494. It's a quiet moment, just diplomats in a room, but it changes history. That single line gave Spain the go-ahead to build an empire across most of the Americas, from Mexico to Chile, while Portugal claimed Brazil. It set the stage for conquests, colonies, and a new global order, but also for the destruction of native worlds. The treaty's impact wasn't just lines on a map, it was the blueprint for the modern Americas. The treaty's effects lasted centuries. Spain's empire birthed nations like Mexico, Peru, and Argentina, with Spanish language and Catholic roots. Portugal's Brazil became a cultural giant, blending European, African, and indigenous influences. But the line wasn't perfect. Disputes over where it fell led to fights, like Spain and Portugal arguing over the Moluccas, Spice Islands, until the 1529 Treaty of Zaragoza clarified things. Other powers, England, France, the Dutch, ignored the treaty, setting up their own colonies in North America and the Caribbean. But Spain and Portugal got the head start. The treaty also set a precedent. Europeans could claim lands they discovered, regardless of who lived there. This idea fueled centuries of colonization, from the Americas to Africa and Asia. It's why Spanish is spoken in Mexico, Portuguese in Brazil, and why native languages like Quechua or Nahuatl survive only in pockets. The treaty's legacy is in the Americas' borders, cultures, and ongoing debates about colonial history. So, what was the Treaty of Tordesillas? It was a deal to split the New World, giving Spain and Portugal free rein to conquer and colonize. It turned Columbus's discoveries into empires, reshaping the Americas with wealth, diversity, and devastation. Native peoples and Africans paid the heaviest price, while Europe reaped the rewards. The big question is, How did Spain's empire grow from this treaty? And what did it mean for the Americas' future? That's what's coming next. The Treaty of Tordesillas wasn't just a line. It was a power move that built the Americas we know, for better and worse. It gave Spain and Portugal the world, but at a cost we're still reckoning with. Want to know how Spain's empire took over the Americas? Check out the following video. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my video with others.